So, this video is going to be interesting because for this Halloween Horror Night video, because I was just so excited that we had Halloween Horror Nights back, this one is basically creating your own Halloween Horror Nights icon. Like, I'm going to tell you guys my ideas for original icons for the event, and as always, if you guys have ideas for your own original icons, just comment below, let me know. And yeah, so we're going to talk about, like, ideas for my ideas for icons, and maybe talk about, like, what their houses might be like. So let's get started with the first one, and that is Dr. Nightmare. So Dr. Nightmare is actually related to another horror icon, another HHN icon, the Caretaker. And this is Ezekiel Kane, the grandfather of Albert Kane, the Caretaker. So Dr. Nightmare, or, you know, Dr. Kane, was a psychologist, and he was also a brilliant inventor. Essentially, he studied in the realm of dreams and nightmares. Like, he always wanted to get to the root of what made the mind horrified. And he basically created a machine that would allow him to traverse into the depths of one's mind. So he would take willing patients and travel into their mind and pull out their nightmares into physical manifestations. Well, you know the old saying of, you know, you look into the void long enough, the void stares back. Well, the void sure as hell stared back, because Dr. Kane became Dr. Nightmare. The more he did this, the more, like, the effects of going deep into one's darkest psyches began to twist and morph him into a darker entity, and which led to people of his family members of his experiment, of his victims, rallying together and hunting down Dr. Nightmare, as he's been called by the townspeople. Before, he just threw on his machine and disappeared. He disappeared in a ball of light before he could be, before justice could be brought down on him. However, he's more or less been traveling the nightmare-scape for a long time, and now he is free to unleash nightmares on the people of Halloween Horror Nights, at least in this story. For what I imagine his house would be, I would imagine his house would be like kind of like his machine is kind of steampunky, and you would more or less, like, enter it as, like, new patients to be studied on by Dr. Kane. So there you go. There's our first one. The next one is the Fear Seeker. The Fear Seeker is my idea for the Fear Seeker is that the Fear Seeker is this interdimensional being of these beings, these interdimensional beings that seek out and study emotions throughout the emotional spectrum throughout the multiverse. They traverse all these dimensional planes, and since they don't really understand emotions themselves, they basically study other beings' emotions and document it. Well, unfortunately, the being that would become the Fear Seeker traveled to Earth one day and encountered a very unique mind, and he actually became interested in the realm of fear. Like, he was noticing that fear was a response that was either like fight or flight, of terror, and it was an exciting feeling to him. And that's when he came across someone who was all about fear, and that was Jack the Clown. Yep, this is another one that connects to another icon. I really like to have the idea of interconnecting icons. So, for this one, is that the Fear Seeker met Jack and encountered him on one of his journeys to Earth, and learning about fear, and learning how powerful fear is as a weapon. He went full Sinestro and became the Fear Seeker, and gathered up all these beings that could create fear and unleash an attack on the rest of his kind. His brothers and sisters banished him, but now he is free. So there you go. There you go, guys. That is the Fear Seekers. The Fear Seeker, excuse me. As for his haunted house, I would say like it'd be something like cosmic horror, like almost like HP, like something Lovecraftian in nature. Moving on to our next one, and that is the Witch Doctor. And the Witch Doctor is a New Orleans voodoo priest who has basically learned how to harvest, you know, souls, and also is a master of making zombies. This is a guy who was once a proud landowner, but he was turned on by his white partners who turned on him and killed him and dumped his body in the swamp. Well, the dark energy and dark magic of the swamp brought him back as a vengeful revenant, and now he's ready to unleash all of the horrors that he's found in the darkest recesses of the Netherworld and the swamp, and ready to tear ass across Halloween Horror Nights. So there's the Witch Doctor. Next up is and this one's going to be the big one, the Spider Queen. So the Spider Queen, this one is about a doctor known as Leslie Arachne. And I know, it's a dumb last name, but that's the thing, is that they always had like a fun tidbit on the name, somewhere in the name. So Leslie Arachne was a entomologist who was also learning about the occult. She was also studying the occult and mixing magic with science, and she was fascinated with the idea of mixing the two. Well, unfortunately, mixing magic with science, nothing, especially dark magic, nothing good ever comes from that. So what happens is she becomes a being of pure dark magic and also a master of science, and wants to create a new breed of evil. That would be the tagline for her event, would be New Breed of Evil. And more or less her house would be like a spider nest, like webs everywhere, like a lab with webs tangled everywhere and bodies like wrapped up, like all just wrapped up in there. Something like that. And our final, let's talk about one more. And the final one we have for this, for original icons, is the Harvester. And the Harvestman, I should say, the Harvestman is a farmer who had been gunned down by a group of this is way back in the Oregon Trail era of the Old West, and he was a farmer who had been practicing in the occult to help his crops grow. Well, a band of hired gunmen, hired by a rival farmer, shot him dead, and he, in his last dying breaths, transferred his soul into a scarecrow and became the Harvestman, who now reaps and harvests fear from his victims. So there you go. So it would, I think like how I kind of imagine this is kind of connected to Scarecrow the Reaping, like kind of loosely connected to that, and where his magic comes from is the Pumpkin Lord. Something like that, again, connecting to another icon. So there you go, guys. Those are just a few original icons. You guys tell me in the comments below, if you could create a Halloween Horror Nights icon, what would their story be? What would their house be? Just kind of, let's just let the imagination run wild here. Anyway, once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.